What's up, everybody? AJ here with Brax for another episode of Bow Nerds. Tonight we have, or today, depending on whenever you listen to your podcast, we've got Jimmy Giarraputo of, you're from a whole bunch of different companies. So at this point, I'm gonna leave it to you because we've known each other for a couple of years now. We started our own little pages, and just like 3 years ago, I think we were going back and forth about how to set the exposure on our cameras. We literally knew nothing, and now we're working with some pretty cool companies like Half Rack and Dialed and whatnot. So, but anyway, you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, so I do a lot of different things, but I guess one of the main things, or where a handful of folks know me from, is doing all the marketing for Half Rack, which is an outdoor gear company, and do social media management and design for a bunch of different companies, and a lot of stuff behind the scenes, which is what I prefer because I don't really like being in front of the camera too much, but we'll see how that changes come the fall. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So for Half Rack, why don't you tell us a little bit, because it's a company that I think a lot of people have started to see kind of like on the periphery, because you guys are coming out with more and more products all the time. But why don't you give us a little more insight into kind of like the ethos, like what are you guys trying to do with the company, like what needs or is Half Rack bringing to the table?
Yeah, so I mean, Half Rack's main focus is giving a soul to an outdoor gear company. Basically in our space, of bow hangers and gun cases and gambrels, all the knickknacks of hunting that not many people think about offhand, but we all have, we all use, and especially we all need. There isn't really a brand that people want to wear on their shirt. Like I could see your Dialed sticker, Brax, and AJ's got the Dialed shirt on. Surprise, surprise. So that's our focus, right? Is to be able to give people a brand within that space of gear that they rely on, but it's also something that, with our morals, our values, and all of our parts of our branding, that gives them a flag to fly. We're 2% for conservation certified, so I mean that's just a small piece of building the sport, getting new people into it, preserving our future, and at the same time bringing everyone good quality gear at a fair price. That it may be stuff you've seen, maybe stuff you have already, but with modern tweaks and updates in the product design and of course the branding that gives people a reason to cheer for it. So
yeah, as far
Yeah,
as
that's
I haven't seen too much with Half Rack before like the last 6 months or so, and being an outsider, I literally first time meeting you right here, and being an outsider, it's definitely like just scrolling through like just the Instagram alone is just like aesthetically pleasing. It's not like most other companies that I've seen, that just sell the little knick-knack products or changing anything. It's the same thing, machined probably straight from some same factory in China, and then a quick photo with white background, no work trying to put into what you guys do. And that's one big thing that I've noticed is the work. And you're the guy behind the camera, so you do the magic, and that's a lot of work that I don't think a lot of people take the time or effort to put into a company that simply sells products or is trying to make new improved products that way. They don't really take that initiative.
yeah, no one that I work with, and I would venture to say that most people in the hunting industry in general, you're not ever trying to badmouth people, but it goes without saying that if someone's ever seen a Hunting Made Easy sticker on someone's truck, I'd give them $1,000 myself, because I definitely haven't seen one. And I know I got a new truck coming, and Half Rack sticker will be going on it. So, that's in regards to the social media presence and the website and all that stuff. That's the stuff that I love, and I'm glad to be able to do it for a brand like Half Rack, because it's the intricacies that no one thinks about. Being behind the scenes, it gets me excited, and especially for Half Rack, from the brand language and voice to, you'll see what we got coming out later this year with marketing campaigns in regards to hunting and bringing back the camaraderie. And it's all about having fun and, being a steward of our sport, land, the game we chase, all that type of stuff. But again, it's not about the biggest deer you shoot, or the biggest deer you can shoot. It's about the people you're spending your time with and the memories from that. I mean, I know for myself, I'm sure you guys have similar instances. Over the last few years, I've been away from home. I've lived away from home for 6 years. AJ and I are both from Long Island, interestingly enough. And I found that hunting has lost its luster for me a little bit, but it's on its way back, especially with working with a brand like Half Rack, where you see that there is other people that have the same values of just wanting to be with good people and enjoy hunting for what it truly is and what it especially started out as years ago. And that's bringing a spark back. So it's exciting to be able to build campaigns and showcase a brand voice and image that has brought that back to me, and hopefully will, keep it afloat for other people as well.
Yeah, the way I always think about your guys' stuff, because I'm actually staring at one of your gun cases right now, and I've got you guys' shotgun shell holder and a couple little other knickknacks. I think you said knickknacks, but it's kind of like it's the stuff that like you always forget, and then like day of or 2 days before you're about to go on a hunt, you're like, oh wait, I need this, and that. But you usually end up buying like whatever cheap stuff at your big box store that you can kind of get your hands on, and then you throw it in your closet and you don't see it again. This is actually stuff that it's at that same price point, but functions the same, if not better, looks cooler, modern update, like you said. Like you guys are doing a good job of creating products that we all need, but that aren't one and done kind of throwaway products. They're stuff that like you could give to somebody and it's not like an afterthought kind of deal.
Yeah. And to speak on that, some more too, like, not being a one and done type of thing. I'm excited for, I'm sure AJ and Brax, I'm sure you guys will get looped in at some point, but what you'll see coming from us in the future is exciting, because you kind of can place certain brands at like the low end, middle, and upper end, and getting a little flashier with things. And we're gonna start not as a brand as a whole, but have implementations of that medium to higher end stuff. That again, stuff that you don't think you need, but you're gonna be glad you have, and high quality materials and pricing to match, but beating the competition of whatever that product is in that space, because we want to get more hunters out there. And if they're the type of person that they may get looped in like through Nodens or like the Identical Draw Brothers, they bring on a lot of new hunters where there's all these different pieces of gear, and we want the barrier to entry to be reasonable. All right, as a company we have to make money, but we want to bring more people in the sport and see them thrive. So
yeah, and I like how you touched on going after not always the biggest buck or biggest bull, and having that memory, just having that fun with people that you like to surround yourself with. There was actually it was 2019. That was 20, like before that it was like 2 point, dude, it's dead. I'm shooting an arrow, it's having a blast, I don't give a crap. 2019 come around and I drew 3 tags here in Utah. I got a buck tag, doe tag, and a bull tag. And bull tag's the any bull on a limited entry unit, so it's kind of a highly sought after. Usually takes like 10-12 years, and it took me 4 years, so I got really lucky. But that year I was actually focused on taking the biggest animal, the biggest buck, the biggest bull, and I didn't give a crap about anything. And dude, that I will not forget the lessons that I've learned in 2019, and it ruined everything. Like, hunting was not as fun as it usually is. And I didn't shoot a buck, and I didn't shoot a bull. I shot a doe because, I mean, it's a doe. But buck and bull, tags,
trophy
8
doe.
tag suit.
It was a trophy doe.
Exactly. Big old 80-pound trophy doe. And so I took the lessons I learned into 2020 and Just went out, helped a couple people just shoot little bucks, and then 2021 I just said I don't even care. I'll shoot a spike, and that's when I had the most fun. I shot a spike elk. I got my dad on a little 3x4 buck, and the memories with the people that it just makes a difference. It's not, and so when you touch on that, it's just like takes me back to 2019 when I literally just learned every lesson possible and just realized that it's not about the biggest set of antlers, and it took a good tag to ruin that for me. But no, I like that Half Rack's standing for that and getting people in together into what hunting actually truly is.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously 2019, it's a good representation for you that it takes hard times to have good times, and
Exactly.
I've definitely had those moments, and for me, hunting wise, like I don't know why, but for whatever reason, like whenever I think about camaraderie and hunting, I always think of gun season, because if you're I've been fortunate enough to have been able to hunt a large private farm here in Virginia. And have since just kind of transferred to public land. But when it's gun season rolls around, there's a bunch of guys out on the farm. So that whatever I think of camaraderie is I think of the crack of the rifle, because when someone shoots, and you just amped that it's like we're all out here, we're all after the same thing, and you never know what it could be until the techs start rolling in or you roll back up to the barn, and that's just like that's what gets me excited. So.
Yeah, Jimmy, I remember it wasn't a successful track job, but chasing my doe through Long Island backyards when we were doing some urban hunting a couple years ago. It sounds like Brax and I had the same 2019, actually.
Learned a few lessons. You got to learn it the hard way to actually understand it. And so, yeah, it's. Yeah. I mean, most fun hunt I had is this giant right here. I mean.
Nice.
Nobody's got something that big.
I was thinking about that photo of you holding that spike bull actually right when you started talking, because it does, it just radiates like how much fun you guys had on that hunt just through that one grip and grin. Like that's everything.
Yeah, it was. I mean, literally, I went on that hunt. That's a unit, so it's an over the counter tag on that unit, and I've hunted it 6-8 years, and literally have never seen an elk. Like there's no elk on this unit. But it's an over-the-counter tag because for that case there is no elk and they can make money. So my cousin got into it and he's like, "Let's go!" And I'm like, "All right, you know what, dude? I'll carry my bow with you. Go have fun, whatever." And fully expectations were we're not going to see an elk, but we're going to go hike our butts off and just have fun, eat some snacks. And sure enough, that was. I feel like when I gave myself that and I was like, you know what, it's okay. It's all about fun. That's when it was like, boom, there's a freaking spike. And, I was going to shoot a freaking cow, calf, spike, bull, anything that came in. I didn't care. And, yeah, it's just the things that you learn and the happiness of finding what brings you joy. Like, I've got buddies that are all about, a 200-inch buck, and that's what makes them happy, and they love that. For me, it's as simple as being with people and, sitting at the cabin eating snacks. That's about it. But
well, I know it's funny. My dad always gives me a hard time after he shoots because I come down to go meet up with him, and I'm like, "This is what it's about." And he's like, "No, stay in the stand. What if something comes by?"
like, no, this is when the fun starts.
You ever find yourself like sitting in the stand, especially like a morning hunt, right? Like you're not waiting for the sun to go down. You don't have that definitive time to get down, and you're like, man, if I get down now, something might happen, and then 20 minutes goes by, like nothing happened, and it's the same thought, and you're like, I don't know when to get down.
that's when I
the
find
mind
myself
games start.
Yeah, that's when I find myself sitting in the stand for 18 hours straight. It just plays the mind game till the sun goes down.
But yeah, speaking of learning hard times and that track job up in New York, AJ, you learn the hard way, because in the next day, my dad and I on the same ridge both shot a buck 10 minutes apart, like sitting 90 yards apart. So you had missed out on the fun.
I was actually like super stoked that I called it quits on that one, that you guys were able to double up on that, because I didn't have a buck tag, so that would have gone totally wasted on me if I had been set up in that stand. So it was super cool seeing that post from you that next morning, and you and your dad doubling up. I mean, it's super cool. What a crazy spot, man. I mean, urban hunting. We saw close to like 20, 30 deer that opening day. It was nuts. It's super cool. And yeah, most people don't know, like these, Long Island, like Virginia and some of these other areas, you get in these suburbs and the deer are just like squirrels. Like they're just super overpopulated, and you can basically hunt them out of backyards, and it presents a challenge for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I spoke with Dan Matthews from the Nomadic Outdoorsman podcast recently, and kind of explained to him about the whole urban stuff and how it compares to down here. Like, I've hunted urban areas here with Taylor Chamberlain up in Northern Virginia, but then public land more down here in the central part where, I mean, it's like a couple thousand acres of timber and one bean field, and that's it. And, then private where it's half ag, half timber, and it is crazy how it differs. I mean, if you're in an area where there is urban hunting opportunities, or suburban, I should say, I mean, if you haven't tried it, it's fun. I mean, it's very high adrenaline, run and gun, and oftentimes it's like, I've sat on that ridge and seen nothing, and then we sat there that day and saw 4 or 5 bucks that I would have shot and 25 deer, and it's just like, I mean, it was unreal. So it's a whole different ball game, but it's fun.
Well, and I remember when we were setting up that morning, you're like, we've never seen anybody else, like no one else has ever come back here. And then towards the end of the day, this hunter is making a beeline right at my tree and is walking around underneath me looking for a good tree. And I'm trying to like whistle at him, get his attention, and he just did not hear me. Ends up setting up 40 yards away from me. A buck is watching him about 70 yards off the entire time, set up his climber. Gets in his climber, not like 20, 30 minutes later. It was actually really cool. I was kind of stoked on it because this little doe walked right between us. And I saw him arrow it and saw the arrow like go through. And I'd never seen, like, real life, you don't get to see an arrow go through a deer on the other side. Like, it was just super cool. And the guy gets down and is trying to track this thing. And he couldn't see where, it was a great shot, but he couldn't see where it went down. And I finally got his attention, and he about shat himself when he realized, a super nice guy, like, he was so apologetic. I was like, dude, no worries, that was awesome. Like, the deer's right over there. And he just went and picked her up and rolled out of the woods. But it was, that was a fun hunt.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about with public land.
Oh, yeah. And that guy, I mean, that dude made so much noise, and I would say he was from the time he walked in to the time he dragged his deer out was like an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing.
I think he had the original climbing stand. Like, that thing looked like our grandparents probably welded that frame together. It was like a platform with some chains on it. Yeah, you couldn't have had a louder setup, but he got it done. He went home with meat. Crazy. Well, Jimmy, circling back around to half rack, if somebody wanted to, I know you guys have kit that kind of like spans the gamut of like what you would need out in the field, but like if somebody wanted to get a feel for the brand, what would be like a handful of products that you'd be like, check these out, this is better than what your grandpa was using, or what you'd probably go pick up at your box store?
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys are obviously huge archery guys. I mean, so am I. So on the archery side, I would say if you're looking for a few things to, kind of add to your arsenal, or especially if you're just starting out and need some simple accessories, again, like it's the whole barrier to entry thing, right? Like, you don't need to go get a $250 SKB case unless you're driving an hour and a half on a bumpy road, and even still it's not necessary, or flying, right? Like, it's kind of 0 to 100 on those types of things. So we want to cover that in between space, again, for a simple barrier to entry. So our Wildcat Bow Case is a soft case, shoulder strap, hand straps, 37-inch, so full length of the case accessory pocket, and ton of padding on it. And again, when it comes to like design and fitting into your kit, I mean, it is in a sense comical, right? Like it matters and it doesn't matter. It matters how these accessories fit into your kit and the gear you have, because neutral tones and solids and trying to match with the camo you have. It's quite interesting, the world we live in, but I'm also one of those people, so I can't talk too much shit. But so our Wildcat Bow Case is in our like clean gun gray finish with like an off-white, accent color. So again, fits in simply and clean with pretty much anything you might wear or use otherwise. And then one I'm super stoked about, which thankfully has been doing really well on Go Wild, is our bow wing. So I know, AJ, you and I have talked about that. It's your standard 10-inch with a 1-point pivot a bow arm that you screw into the tree to hang your bow. But again, it's the simple little things that people don't necessarily think of. So the part where you hang your bow on, it has a softer gradient on the end of the hook, so easier to go on and off, but obviously still keeping your gear secure. An added gear hook on the back, so hang grunt tubes or rangefinder, or bite it into the tree more and hold up a light backpack, and then it biting into the tree adds rigidity, so that there's no flex when your bow's hanging. And then also on that one, again, it's like a bunch packed into a super small thing, is a 1/4-20 on top. So a 1/4-20 screw is perfect for GoPros or Ozonics units, or even a DSLR. Obviously, there's then no pivot, but you can get it on there if you wanted to. So, a ton in one little package, which speaks to the mantra of a lot of hunters nowadays is, lightweight gear, less gear, keeping it simple type of thing. So that's kind of our approach. If you're more of a gun hunter side, I think the things I'd be most excited about is obviously like our blaze orange vest, so no Velcro, just snap buttons. Our Wazi gun case, which I'm pretty sure that's probably the one you're looking at over there, AJ. It's super neat and clean and high-end padded quilt finish. And then our Boone sling, which is our leather sling. So ton of cool stuff, and I don't know. I'm a fan, obviously. I'm biased, but that's fine.
That little 1/4-20 is such a good idea on that wing. I actually, talking about like filming and stuff, I saw these turkey hunters. I want to say I forget whose page it was on, but they set up one of those 360 cameras and got the whole hunt and were able to, just with the one camera without touching it, capture everything. It was pretty cool. It obviously had like the fisheye, but I was thinking like that 1/4-20 on that bow wing would be genius or it would work perfect for something like that.
Yeah, and it's just one less thing to take in and remember, or fumble out of your hands and fall out of the tree, and we all know that's happened. And that's it. It's just one thing, and you got your bases covered. So
yeah, that's brilliant. I would have never even thought about that. And
neither did I.
That's why we have you.
I wish I could say I did, but that was TJ. So
that's smart.
That TJ has some good ideas. We're gonna have to get him on this episode. It's TJ Yates from also from Dialed and a whole other bunch of companies.
That bow case I was looking at, $46. Does that sound right? Is that the right one I'm looking at?
Yep.
That like blew my mind when I saw that earlier today, because I was just like scrolling through everything, just doing my homework, making sure I know who's who, what's what. Like we went and bought a soft case. I can't even remember what it was, some random one. It was like $180 for a soft case. Like, and it was nothing special. It was just a soft case. I didn't buy it because I wouldn't spend that much on a soft case. But the other guy liked to spend a lot of money. But no, that case like is clean. I'll probably buy one today, honestly.
Didn't you just get an $1,800 soft case that says Hoyt on it? But that came with a bow in it, though.
Dude, that's what I'm pissed about. Is they don't give a case with it.
Oh, they don't do that anymore?
No. I got one with my RX-1, but the RX-7, I spent 3 times as much and didn't get a freaking bow case. I like show up and I'm like, where's my case? He's like, oh, they don't come with them anymore. I'm like, are you kidding me? I spent $2,000 on a bow. Come on.
They gotta keep you coming back somehow.
That's
business.
right. That's right.
The
So
most
I'll go
expensive
support
hat
Half Rack and buy that one because it's way cooler anyway. I like the black and white or gray and white.
My PSE didn't come with a case either. If it makes you feel any better, buddy.
Hey, but at least, well, I guess the expensive PCs are expensive. So
Yeah, once you get into that carbon bracket, that's a different tax bracket altogether. So yeah.
There were so many people that like sat there and freaking cried about the price of the Hoyt that they jumped up so much. I mean, it jumped up what, $150 or something. And everybody, oh my gosh, Hoyt's just trying to screw everybody, which I get. Times have changed. Manufacturing's more expensive, like all of that. So you get that into the fact, and it's, it just goes up. But like rarely anybody said anything about PSE, literally the same price. And I'd go on like some forums, and they're I haven't shot a PSE, so I don't hear it as much, but
I heard it too. Yeah, the price of everything just went up, and that's what I was telling, I've had to tell that to people too, because the aluminum bows went up too, right? Like every little thing is going up. So yeah, I mean, being able to get those little, the knickknacks that you need at an affordable price, like, I mean, all three of us I know are guys that, like, if it's worth it, we'll spend the money on it. But at the same time, like, sometimes, you don't need multiple $200, bow arms in if you have so many stands set up around the woods, right?
Like, Boeing, $9. Like, are you kidding me? I'm just like, and I don't have any discount codes set in, so no, it's literally blowing my mind, especially with how expensive everything is right now. It's just like I'll show you a hat I bought today. You guys gonna love this. So some kid came knocking at my door like 10 minutes before this, and he's like, "Dude, I'm trying to start my business. I make hats and I sell them. Well, how much is your hat?" He's like, $25. I'm like, $25, man. I was like, I got 20 cash. He's like, I'll take it. Well, here's the beautiful hat that he made.
I like it, man. I don't know.
Straight up Nintendo Switch, and the biggest thing is just supporting the up and coming business owners. He's like, business is so hard, man. You gotta like make sure you have money. This kid's like 8, maybe. He's like, you gotta make sure you have money for inventory. And you gotta like fulfill these orders, dude. It's just kind of hard sometimes.
If only he knew.
How did you learn this that fast, little dude? That was funny. So
hey, that's
had to buy a hat.
Yeah,
That's
seriously,
right.
That's an entrepreneur. We're gonna need to keep up with this kid because we're gonna need him to sponsor the podcast in the future.
For real. So. I've got his signature, so in case he takes off, it's Joshua right there.
There you go.
He'll be the next one buying Twitter.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, for those of you only listening, you're really missing out on Brax's hat right now because it's a pretty epic design.
And I was playing the Nintendo Switch last night, so that was it was perfect for today. So I'm gonna hang it on the wall right with the Switch. But
Jimmy, man, and what other kind of plans and like what things can we like look for on the horizon, and what do you got going on the rest of the year? Because you're a busy man.
Well, I mean, in regards to Half Rack and what's coming up, again, I mean, I'm hashing out the details currently, and I'd love to just tease it out, but I think knowing my learnings on things, I'd rather know that everything is dialed in before teasing it out, but it'll be a campaign geared around a photo contest and kind of spun off in a way that again, hits back on our traditions and hunting and having fun and camaraderie, but in a way that, as far as I know, and I've looked into it because that's my job, hasn't really been done before and doesn't get talked about a lot. So I'll have to come back on and talk about it in the summertime because I think, if you guys want to have me on, because I'll tell you, it's not archery related, so I get it's bow nerds, so there's a brand to uphold, but you guys will hear about it, and so that's kind of, I mean, right now that's what my fall is going to gear around. Hunting here, Maryland, and possibly upstate New York, but then with some of the other work I do and other clients, that might change, and I might be who knows where. So we'll see what happens. But at the very least there, and then might be heading up to Wisconsin in September with the half rack team. So we'll see. Give me another month and I'll have it hashed out for you.
Very cool, man.
How does these urban hunts go? I literally had no idea urban hunting was even a thing until like 2 years ago when I started watching Seek One in Georgia, and because here in Utah you can go walk 400 miles and not see a house or a person. So I'm not used to literally watching videos of them shooting a buck and dying in like a dentist office parking lot. Like, what the freak is that? But it looks like so much fun.
I've had I shot a small buck one time, long time ago, that I'm fairly convinced the only reason he died where he did was because he ran into someone's like mesh wire fence because it was getting dark and he didn't see it, I suppose. And I know people who have lost deer because they wound up. I believe I heard that one wound up in a pool or like right underneath someone's window and was like, well, I'll be back, and that was that. Or had to go get it later or something. It sounds wild, and or unfortunately in the Hamptons, like, it's kind of funny because everyone has a deer fence, but no one really likes hunters, so getting permission's difficult. It happens, obviously. It's not as easy as you'd think it would be, unfortunately. But basically how an urban hunt goes is what we've always done is look for transition areas because these pieces of timber are so small. So like if you know where deer are bedding, they're going to be there. And 99% of the time they're where you think they are. And if you could find that transition zone, especially during the rut, or use the weather to your advantage when you think deer are going to be moving the most, high pressure, overcast, stuff like that. It usually goes pretty well. And that was another point that I mentioned to Dan Matthews a few weeks ago was that we never ran trail cameras, and so any deer we ever shot, we never had any history with. But that's the thing is you'll go out, and I don't know that any of us have ever seen the same deer twice. Like, that's it. And you used to be sitting in the same tree, and you never see the same deer twice. Because, again, transition areas, and they'll go a couple miles, but a couple miles is between 4 subdivisions and behind a school and by a tennis court, and it's just all over the place. There's no I know that they're going to run this field edge to this ravine and then bed down here. There's none of that. It's just kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, there's so many variables. My dad hunts a couple of little spots, and one of them pretty much a tree line on the beach. Like, he's sent me photos of deer that he's dragging out with literally a sunset, and he's on the beach, and I'm like, where are you right now? Like, this looks kind of romantic. Like, what is happening over there? Meanwhile, he's got like his pull cord and the deer's tongue's hanging out, and yeah, it looks like he's having a picnic on the beach with it. But yeah, it's crazy because there's so many you gotta think there's so many variables that those deer are running into just in their natural patterns, right? That they may be driven off course or pressured off course and never return to that same stomping ground again. And then you get deer that'll live in the same drainage for their entire life. They'll live in the same little sump area in a little suburban neighborhood and never leave. And it's crazy because in those, I can only speak for Long Island, but you'll go in these parks with these trails that people are running all day long, and those people have no idea there are deer there because the deer are just so different than the ones that we're used to running into in bigger tracts of land where you spook them. You don't spook urban deer, so to speak. They know that there are just people always here, there's cars always here, so they just stay still, and you just don't know that they're there. unless you walk right up on them, and they just wait for you to kind of pass. It's a totally different thing, but super cool, super cool.
Yeah, I was in Nashville a year or two ago. We were walking through a war monument place, and I mean, it was thick brush just all throughout. And of course, I'm just head on a swivel looking for deer just for the heck of it, thinking, oh, it's like seek one, dude. I'm going to find a big old buck. And we're walking through, and sure enough, like literally 2 yards to our right is a doe and a fawn, just like sitting there staring at us. I'm like, over here in Utah, a mule deer sees you, most of the time they're gone, and they'll bounce off. And whitetail like to just run. Mule deer will bounce, stop, look at you, bounce, stop, look at you, or whatever. But yeah, it just blew my mind that they literally were just like a picture, just sitting in the bush. They didn't care about it.
Cemeteries too. Our buddy, I've got a buddy from Chicago who he's sending me photos of some of the biggest freaking deer I've ever seen living in these cemeteries. Because to Jimmy's point, right, you got edges, you've got those transition areas, and there's no pressure. It's not like, how many crowded cemeteries are there in the world, right? So, I mean, they're crowded, but not with living people. So, yeah, there's not a lot of hunters in them.
Scent killer's just the scent of death.
Yeah, exactly. They're used to the scent of death, so nothing spooks them. But crazy. It's crazy.
That's funny. So, Jimmy, what I know you do half rack, but I also know you do rack hub. And what are some other stuff you play with?
I guess I do. I mean, pretty much all the marketing and branding for Half Rack, and then brand strategy and social media management for Rack Hub, and then I work alongside Austin Thomas with a handful of his clients, mostly for design and social media management and strategy and stuff like that. So that's what keeps me busy, and then the occasional freelance like logo design or apparel design, which I've had a handful of logos recently, which it's kind of fun to do. There was a time where I would get a little, everything's a process you're learning, and I would get frustrated, like, all right, I got this design, and then someone picks the other one, and I'm like, man, like, I wish you would pick the one that I liked, and then starting to realize, like, how to build those relationships. And I'm a big guy, on loving the process, and that's just kind of part of it, and learning to enjoy the process at the very least. And it's been interesting, and that's over the course of since AJ and I, first met each other to now. So I don't know, what is it, 3-4 years or something like that, or 3
at
years.
Least 3.
So it's interesting to see where everything's gone, and it's definitely a blessing. I think if you told me this 3 years ago, I would have said you're crazy, because 3 years ago I was still in the military. Thought I had it figured out, definitely didn't, but here we are, so it worked.
Yeah, Jimmy actually designed the bow hunting pirate logo on our shirts and stickers, and the tuner logo that we've got.
That tuner looks sick.
Yeah,
that was all him.
That turned out way good.
Thanks.
So you were in the military before. So did you do any schooling, like social media or marketing, anything like that? Just learned on the fly and figured it out and just had the eye for it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the way to put it. So whenever anyone asks, the story goes, and that I went to prom on June 23rd. My birthday was June 24th. Graduated June 25th and left 17 days later. That was the last 2 weeks of life on Long Island as a kid, and it's been 6 years, so it's been interesting. But no college. Well, I guess I tried to go to college after the Coast Guard for 1 semester, and that was torture. So I was like, yep, never again. And then just, I guess, my dad, he has only ever been an entrepreneur, owned a few different businesses, and that's all he's ever done. And I guess it's just, it's not that he preached that to me or anything. I guess it's just in my blood, more or less. And being my own boss is definitely, of course, you have clients, right? And you have people that you need to uphold a standard for, but it's a lot different than a 9 to 5 showing up and being someone's, cog in their machine, so to speak. That's definitely not for me. So really, I mean, and one of the biggest things I love to do is try to teach people things I've learned, and especially in the process and how to get to where you're going. And, if anyone is looking to try to enter this space, and especially creatively, I mean, it's crazy to think, but all it takes is initiative. I mean, initiative and good work ethic, and it will work out. I mean, one way or another, it should work out. But unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe I don't know how old you are, Braxton. AJ, he's getting up there in age. I'm younger than y'all, so I don't know if it's the same generation or not. But obviously, younger people, they don't really have that instilled in them often, so it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, that was like, I get a lot of people like asking me, how do I do this? Like, how, for like, I mean, I'm not crazy successful on YouTube or anything, but like people ask because there's a couple thousand followers, whatever. Like, how do you do YouTube? And it's like, you just be consistent with it. Not saying that I'm consistent right now because obviously I've definitely fallen off the face of the earth the last few months, but consistency literally is the key, and taking the initiative to do it. If you work a 9 to 5, go to that 9 to 5, and now you work a 6 to 2. Like, it's a whole nother job that people, the younger generation doesn't really want. They want to start with that as their key, and it is possible. Don't get me wrong. Like, it is totally 100% possible, but you have to have that drive. And I mean, from what you explained with the initiative, like, that's probably the biggest part in doing photography or doing marketing and anything like that, because you have to get those clients. You have to go out and knock on somebody's door and sell them a hat. Like, it takes time and work, and it's not sit down at home and scroll through social media and expecting to be the next Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Like, right now we're working. Yeah, it's podcast, but like, you're working, AJ's working, I'm working, and it's just, I don't know. You just got to take the initiative, take the leap, and try to go for it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, two things, like, speaking on Twitter being bought, I saw something today from Elon, something along the lines of, and it was probably an older tweet that someone like kind of screenshotted, but it said something about working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for however many years, but people still, still think he had it easy or something like that, right? Like, it's one of those things where the amount that I know today compared to a year ago when I thought I knew a lot is 1,000% more, if not more, if you could quantify it. And that's just one of those things is if you don't enjoy the process, then you're never going to get there. And so if you can teach yourself to love that. And one of the biggest things I learned from the military, especially going in right at 18, was not being given the option. So when you're given an option in life, you're going to generally, people pick the easy route. So not being given an option on things, and it's like, you're going to do this no matter how scared you are or anything, it don't matter, you're doing it. That's what has given me, for myself, that self-discipline, really. I mean, that's really the only way to put it on, all right, well, I don't really like this, or I'm not really sure of this, or I'm uneasy. And every opportunity that's come my way in the hunting industry, I don't necessarily get that feeling anymore, like to the same extent, but that uneasiness, when you feel that uneasiness, that's when you have to move forward, because that's how you grow. And there's literally, it sounds so cliche, but it's the most true thing in the world.
Yeah, I'll attest to that 100%. And I wasn't joking when, I was saying that Jimmy and I were learning how to work a camera together. Like, we would send each other photos, and we would both edit it and see, like, and then we'd trade notes on, like, how do you like each other's photo? And Jimmy, you jumped into the YouTube space before me, like self-filming hunts and things like that. And, it really pushed me, like, I should do, like, a YouTube, and I think, like, what you said about moving towards stuff that makes you uncomfortable is 100% true. I know I felt that with this podcast. I've felt that with, every opportunity doing stuff with Dialed when you guys first introduced me to that. Like I think that's such an important lesson because at the end of the day, like there's nothing that any of us here can say to somebody they're either going to keep going forward because that's what's in their heart and they'll find a way to be successful. But it's, what we say might help them, but it's not going to make or break. Like at the end of the day, it's on them. And I'm a big believer in that rule of 10,000 hours because I've seen it in all three of us, and we're by no means experts. We've still got a ton to learn, and we're just starting to get that toehold in the industry. But it's really cool to like be on a podcast years later together, sponsored by an up and coming company in the industry, and just see like where everything's coming. When we were taking photos on our phones and posting them up, and had 3 people commenting on them and talking, and it's it's just super super cool, super surreal too.
Yeah, two things that to kind of like blanket what we just talked about is like in more of like a metaphorical sense is when you get to like that uneasy feeling. I've always talked to people, friends, giving advice, and again, I'm not an expert, but I know that life lived is worth sharing because otherwise how are you going to learn? And that's kind of, I see it as a cliff, and if you think about jumping, you're not going to jump, so just do it. And also don't give yourself a plan B. I've never had a plan B. Like, it's just one of those things. I don't know why, and people have asked, and like, I mean, I'll say it right here, like, no doubt in my mind, if I lost all of my contracts tomorrow, I will not be working a 9-to-5. I will go out and find 100 small clients doing the same thing before I like give in, because it's just there is no plan B, and that's just the way it is.
And I tried talking you in the opposite direction, so I'm glad you didn't listen to me. So
You did?
I remember us having that phone call where I was like, "Hey man, maybe like keep the 9-to-5 and like build this on the side," and you're like, "No." And here we are. So
Yeah.
That's something that my one of my brothers that has been successful doing his own thing. He's always said, because he broke the norm, He was in college for a second. He's like, screw this, quit. And everybody's like, dude, what's your plan? And give him their plan. What's plan B? He's like, plan B is to make plan A work. Plan C, make plan A work. Plan D, make plan A work. He's like, there is no plan B. And so the second you said that, I thought about that because that's always, stuck into me. It's like, there is no plan B. It's plan B is make plan A work no matter what the freak it takes. You might have to take another direction at it, but it's still plan A. And if that's what you want, you better not stop going for it no matter what the heck happens.
Yeah.
Well, and how much do you value your agency, right? Like Jimmy, you talked about not having a boss, and I know Brax and I, like, we feel the same way, being able to do stuff like this. Like, we both got other jobs where we're responsible to people, but I think we also like that because, like, for me at least, like, it allows me to do this sort of stuff without having to worry about, like, what's so, is cancel culture going to come after me because I posted a photo that was stupid or a dumb caption or something, like. It's there's a lot of paths to success in this whole industry, and it's cool like getting to hear from guys and see guys like you come up and work with these different companies.
Yeah, and that's actually another good point with the cancel culture thing, and kind of another key thing to keep in mind. Just trying to enter the space or just chasing a dream, so to speak, is like self-awareness has helped me tremendously. Knowing what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and the fundamentals of business is when you're not good at something, you pay someone else to do it and don't have the pride to think that you should be doing it. That's easier said than done, but that's hugely important. And that's kind of why it's funny because it's weird because you're talking about it now with starting to YouTube years ago, and I spoke with TK today, Taylor Coleman, and we caught up about, and he mentioned similar things, and I just kind of like scoff at that because I'm like, man, why did I do that? But because I just think it's cheesy now for me and the way I approached it and where I wound up, but it was all part of the process, and but then thankfully had the self-awareness to realize like, yeah, I'm not too good at this in front of the camera thing. I'll be behind the scenes. So,
and also self-awareness that you didn't sell out for the dream. Like, I think some people don't, maybe it's because they don't have it defined, or they're not really like truthful with themselves or whatever. But I mean, all three of us have seen it where like people they seem to define success either in follower counts or brand deals or like certain kind of corny things that in the long run don't really matter, because cool, you're not working a 9 to 5 where you're sucking metaphorical dick, but you're doing you're making content in an industry where you're sucking metaphorical dick. So it's like, you're like, at the end of the day, like, you want agency, and like, if you want to be your own boss, like, don't lose sight of like what you got in it for too. Like, I think that's super important. That's something that, you didn't do. Like, you were very much about like, this is what I want to create, and this is the footprint I want to leave in the industry. So it's cool, because Half Rack definitely, I mean, it's a good fit for you. I'm super stoked for you, man.
I appreciate it. Speaking of like valuing things, those things take time, but you learn your path and you try things and they don't really work out, and you try other things and you're like, all right, I like this. And I feel like I've gotten to a point where I'm fairly confident in what it is I'm good at and what I like to do, but still knowing that there's more to learn. But the thing I've started to value over brand, like, I don't have any brand deals, but like over things like that is being valued for what you finally are confident that you're good in. Like, once you're like, this is who I am and what I do, and then being valued for those skills is a good, I think that's a good way to approach it, because it keeps you humbled on, all right, I know that what I'm doing is working, but again, it's not the fame, glory type of deal.
What's up, everybody? So first, we had a little technical difficulties with the audio and video coming from Jimmy towards the end of the episode. So cutting this one a little short. You guys didn't miss too much. I think we're just going on a bit of an industry rant of content and whatnot. But appreciate you guys tuning in. And you can find Jimmy at Jimmy Giarraputo. I'm not going to spell that out, but he's also on. He's on.
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, he's.
We'll see if I can pull it up.
The content creator behind the Hunt Free Media, and then also a Half Rack, and he does a lot of work for Rack Up and a bunch of the other companies and brands. So we'll have links to everything in the video and episode description. So definitely check him out. It was great talking and catching up with him.
Yeah, he's completely just knowledgeable as far as inside the media range. I mean, him and yourself are just money makers on photography. So talking to him, just picking his brain, understanding more of what goes into pictures and the views that he has, creating a page in the way that like you just scroll through his page and you'll see it. And I did look it up. His Instagram, for those guys that are just listening, is Jimmy, obviously Jimmy. Giarraputo, Giarraputo. So good luck with that one. You're probably gonna have to rewind this a few times and get that spelling right.
He's big on TikTok, believe it or not.
Oh, is
Jimmy
he?
blew up on TikTok like in the early days of COVID.
Dude,
so.
I'm gonna have to download TikTok just to go find him.
Yeah, he had some. He's got some of his old when he had like his own Hunt Free Media brand. That was at Rich. I don't know if he's still doing that. I meant to ask him about that, but yeah, he had some pretty like blown up TikToks, which was pretty funny because I don't think it's pretty hard to get hunting stuff to explode on there. But
oh yeah, I started a TikTok and my first post, I got kicked off TikTok, so I'm not on TikTok anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they let you show kills or even I think I know somebody that got kicked off because they thought that it was a kill, but they were shooting a 3D target.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, it's gotta love the algorithm.
I was skinning out an elk, so, yeah, they didn't like that, I guess. So, fair enough.
Brax, don't you know the rules? You can show food. It's already got to be dead, like, for several days. It's got to be
wrapped in plastic, known from a source that you have no idea where it's coming from. But
otherwise,
organic,
it's offensive.
It is, for sure. It doesn't taste as good either. That plastic chemical wrap stuff that they throw on it makes it taste a little bit better. But
yeah, for sure.
social media, man, it's a whole puzzle to put together and try to use
Yeah.
their stupid algorithms.
And speaking of that, I just cooked up the last of my bear meat from 2 years ago, so
Oh,
I'm
wow.
hurting for some wild game now.
Dude,
Yeah,
I've never had bear. Is it good?
So I can only I've heard it depends on what they're eating and where they're located, which I could believe. Skinning out a bear, if you've never done it for the first time, is a weird kind of creepy experience because like especially around the arms, like it just looks like human arms. Like when you
That's
get the
what
fur
everybody
off,
says that I've talked to. That's weird.
super creepy. And I always discounted. I was like, yeah, whatever. But then when I was doing it, I was like, this is weird. Like it's got a bicep and tricep and delts, and it's
Really?
freaky. Yeah,
Like
looks
this
just
little
like
alien guy underneath that big black hair.
yeah, terrifying. But it took me a little while to get the hang of cooking it. I think at first it was definitely a user error on my part because I was so worried about like the stories of trichinosis and whatnot that I overcooked it. But then when you look into it, and you just have to cook it just like pork, which I checked the whatever the FDA tells you to do. But yeah, I just I've been cooking it pretty much medium, and yeah, it
Like
tastes
a
good.
steak?
You just yeah, like I've been cutting them up into steaks. There's a lot more prep time because there's so much more fat on them, and the fat is like so greasy and difficult to get off. I'm sure there's guys that like know what they're doing that are better than me at it, but for me, I just cook up steaks, and yeah, I just cut up some of the quarters, the last bits of the quarters, and it tastes great. There's definitely like a couple more slingshots in there you got to cut out, but
So
it's really good.
when you prep your meat, are you cutting it up before you freeze it, or are you just like freezing a quarter and then cutting it off when you need it?
Yeah, it depends like how much we've killed and how lazy I've gotten by that point for sure.
That makes
But
sense.
it and also like when we're planning on cooking it. So I don't know if you've ever seen we're gonna have to have him on here. I'm gonna talk to him actually, but Andy, the flip flop guy,
I've seen you
he's
repost his stuff.
yeah, he's been he does work with like Kuyu and Yeti, and they usually have him out at like Eberly Stock and Bert over at Sornex. They usually have him out at events, but he's a professional chef. He's got his own sauce, flip flop sauce they call it, and he's got the most simple way of cooking entire legs of venison. Actually, I don't think it would work with a bear, but any bovine creature apparently, you just take the whole leg, skin it. He has his sauce and he adds some wine to it to make like a marinade, but he doesn't marinate it. He just douses it over it and just cooks the entire thing on charcoal
Holy
grill.
crap. That takes
Just cooks it
Disneyland's turkey legs to a whole new level.
seriously, and he feeds entire parties this way. Like
That is
he
crazy.
cooks one side, flips it, cuts the stuff off, serves it to everybody, and then flips it again. Hence the flip flop. So I'm gonna start trying that. Like I'm gonna start saving like whole legs
That's
for
a
like
great
when we have.
idea.
Yeah, because we do like us and our friends like we'll have wild game nights at the end of the season and stuff. So I'm gonna
Oh,
start
that's sweet.
saving just whole legs for that. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah,
Even a lot of our friends' girls are vegans, but they'll eat the stuff that we killed, which is cool.
that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, so I don't know if that worked for a bear, but yeah, anyway, that was a
Yeah.
tangent. But yeah, I'll try and cut them up into like usable pieces of meat, but then by the end of the animal, like I'm just taking entire chunks and just wrapping it in freezer paper, and I usually just mark it like
See,
AJ Bear New York 20 or whatever the year was.
yeah. I- I'm so anal about how perfect I make my meat, like cuts of meat. So like
Really?
my spike elk that I got last year, dude, I was cutting that up for like 6 days straight and making like the most perfect steaks and burger and stuff. And like when I start to get a little bit lazy, that's when my burger pile starts to, grow a little bit more to where I just
Yeah.
throw it in the grinder and make burger. But like I get rid of every tendon, every slice of silver skin, literally anything, which a lot of guys like to keep on there because it helps keep a little bit of juice in when you're cooking it. But I'm a very I like my steaks just as lean and as minimal as anything other than just muscle meat. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
like fat. I don't like tendons. But
I'm the same way. I try and get rid of as much silver skin as possible. I was actually going to ask you about that because I know that's like not controversial, but like everyone's got an opinion on it. I just find out, like, I find I cook it better if it doesn't have that on there.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's just, like a little flay. Like,
but I'm still like very new to like learning how to cook all this stuff myself.
oh,
Like,
for sure. I make up all the
it.
slices. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a tri-tip steak off an elk. Yeah, it's probably the backstrap, and I'm just calling it a tri-tip because I know the name. No, I freaking cut up. I have it marked or written. It's like party tri-tip, need to smoke is what the package says. Dude, and it's probably a 25-pound chunk of meat for a party just to go have huge steaks. But I don't have a smoker right now, and so I'm not going to cook it until I have one because I don't want to screw it up.
We're definitely going to have a wild game chef on then it's settled because, and that's something that's like, it's such a blind spot for me. And now I'm starting to get more into it because my wife, like, I introduced her, she finally like broke down and tried some of my deer back straps a couple years ago, and now she's obsessed with it. So
That's
trying to like break into other parts. Like, I know like there's so much like slow pressure cooking you could do with like the shanks and whatnot, and it's that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah, and you can tell that it's kind of dinner time when we're recording this because now all we're talking about is food.
Yeah, my mouth's watering. Yeah,
oh,
you guys,
for sure.
This is the only way.
I've got to go down.
People
to my
know
freezer.
when we're recording. Either we have cups of coffee or we're talking about food.
Exactly. This morning at 6:00, coffee. Tonight, steaks. So.
Yep.
No, right now my wife's making crepes because being pregnant, she said that the baby is nothing but craving crepes. So every day she just, we need crepes. We keep running out of eggs and milk because that's what she's craving.
That's interesting. My baby is currently craving. Well, it was all meat and rice, and then now it's over that, and my wife's trying to figure out what he wants now.
What's next?
But, yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
you got a boy. I'm so stoked for you on that.
I'm pumped too, man. I didn't. It's cool. Not that like you can't do. I mean, I don't know because I've never had a kid before, but like it's starting to become more like you can imagine like all of the hunts and the stuff that you can do, and like it's all becoming like way more real. Not that you can't do that with a girl, but I feel like because I am a guy, it's just easier for me to envision that stuff. But yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, you got to be so pumped. You guys are in the final stretch now. Oh no, I lost Braxton. This episode was just not meant to happen, apparently. Well, guys, we lost Braxton. This episode was just doomed to technical difficulties. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Depending on when you're listening to this, when it first comes out, we're either going to have Josh Smith or Isaac Alleman or even Hano from Quattro Archery. So stay tuned, and thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you guys next time.